Hello, welcome to the Untold Civil War YouTube channel. I hope you've been keeping up with the podcast side of things. Hello, Autumn. This is my co-host of the show tonight. But I hope you've been keeping up with the podcast side of things. I've got more episodes coming up with some great interviews. But of course, I know I owed you guys a new video on understanding the Confederacy. I just recently did a video called Understanding the Union, where I discussed my top 3 primary sources, books that I would recommend to anyone who's trying to better understand the Union. Well, now I needed to pick out 3 books that were my top picks for the Confederate side of things, which I did, and I can't wait to share with you. I did say in my previous episode how you have to take each of these books, primary sources in general, with a grain of salt. I'm not going to go over that again, so please, I'm going to leave a link for people to go back to that video, and you can sort of see what I mean by what are primary sources and how you should use them in your research. But for now, I will just dive into my choices for the Confederacy. So to kick us off, I'm going to discuss Fighting for the Confederacy, the Personal Recollections of General Edward Porter Alexander. Edited by Gary Gallagher, of course, famous Civil War historian. The reason I picked this book out is because Edward Porter Alexander, he must be the most interesting person of the Confederacy. I mean, he's the guy who uses the wigwag system to warn the Confederate Army at First Manassas of the Union flank attack, thus saving the day for the Confederacy. And it was the first time the wigwag system was used on the battlefield. He then goes on to command the balloons of the observation balloons of the Confederate Army. And he talks about that experience of going up in the air to observe Union movements. And then, of course, he commands the barrage, the artillery barrage, before Pickett's charge. And he talks about what I would call CYA, cover your you-know-what, where he's going back and forth with Longstreet, both of them seemingly not eager to make the call if Pickett should make this advance, and they're kind of putting it on each other. Very interesting. This guy rubs shoulders with some of the top brass of the Confederate government, the Confederate military. And so if you want to get a great perspective on that, this is the book I would recommend. Next up, we have a book by someone who was not a Confederate at all, but the Fremantle Diary. Fremantle was a British observer, an officer of the famous Coldstream Guards, came over here to the United States to observe the conflict. I think one of the great descriptions of that is just like the sailor who comes home and then takes a rowboat out on the park. It's the same thing. A soldier likes to spend his vacation in places of conflict, and that's what he did. He came to the United States to observe the war, and the reason why I recommend this book is because he travels throughout the Confederacy. He goes to Texas, he goes to South Carolina, and so you get a real good perspective of the whole of the Confederacy coming from someone who is actually like an outside observer. So it's very interesting to get his perspective. There's certain things that you kind of have to laugh at as he, gawks at how Texans have very large spurs, and how he's very confused how Virginian cavalrymen will ride with their sabers between their thigh and the saddle rather than outside of their thigh, which is also an interesting thing. And he'll also describe how poor the Zouave uniforms are in the United States as compared to what he's used to probably on a European battlefield or in the European militaries of France and Britain. So it's very interesting to see his perspective. In the end, he actually ends up going through the draft riots in New York City. So you even get a little taste of that. You get a taste of his perspective on the Battle of Gettysburg, of course. In the end of the book, not to spoil it, I think he does give a lot of credence to there being a formal Confederate victory as an outcome of the conflict, which we now know was not the case. But that was his prediction. Very interesting read. And finally, last but not least, we have Without a Home or Country, The Gallant Tale of the Confederate Navy by Cornelius Hunt. This is a very interesting book about the Shenandoah, which was one of the Confederates' last cruisers, you could say. And the reason I picked this is because I just don't think there's just enough interest in the naval side of things. I think it's very important that we look at that, because it could be argued that the naval blockade did more to end the Confederacy than any land campaign. I know I'm going to get a lot of people upset by saying that, but I think it can be argued. So when you look at the naval operations, it's very important to look at them and dissect them and really get into the weeds of it. And of course, in my previous video, I didn't talk about the Navy, so I thought it's very important to talk about the Navy now. And so I picked out this book because the Shenandoah, of course, has a very interesting history. I'll just say it was the only Confederate cruiser to circumnavigate the globe. And if you want to learn more about the Shenandoah, you can go on to my previous video on whaling in the Civil War. So there's more on the Shenandoah on there, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But here's a book that I would recommend for anyone who wants to get into the Confederate naval aspect of things. So those are my 3 books that I recommend to people in regards to better understanding the Confederacy. 3 primary sources, solid primary sources. Again, I know I'm probably missing out your favorites, so please leave them in the comments below. I'd like to give a big thank you to my sponsors, of course. Number 1, the badge maker. He's the one who produces all these amazing Corps badges and pipes and Civil War dog tags for all you reenactors out there. But of course now he's actually producing some great stickers, which I will post some pictures up that you can see. And you're going to want to have these stickers. Decorate your laptop with them, decorate your locker. Great things to have. I have a couple stickers that I've actually put on my laptop, which I don't have with me here, but I'll definitely post pictures up. And of course, I want to thank Civil War Trails. Civil War Trails does amazing work to help put signs that interpret Civil War sites across the United States. And so I definitely recommend, if you're planning a vacation anytime soon, use the Civil War Trails website, because there are sites on there that you've probably never heard of and you will totally miss out on. And it's all there, right there on the Civil War Trails website. So please use that site to your advantage to plan your next vacation and don't miss out on these incredible sites. So please check those two sponsors out. There'll be links in the description below. So thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope I catch you on the next one.